Today we're talking about becoming independently wealthy.
Woo woo.
So here we go, the Retirement Readiness Podcast. So today we're talking about becoming independently wealthy.
Yeah, is that not
Where do I sign?
Yeah, is that not on everybody's checklist, right? Well, and I think
Not working for the man.
Yeah. And I think part of it is everybody has their own definition of what that means, and it's really starting to separate out what is my definition or what does that mean for me. And a lot of times, I think people hear that independently wealthy and they think it's similar to what they think when they think about two-comma lifestyle, right? Millionaire lifestyle, don't have to work anymore, just life
Make
is
my own
easy, free.
hours.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely paths that you can start down that road, but Dad used to always say there's always a toilet to clean.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in that path, it's not all fun and games, but there are paths where you can get there.
And I think it's like people romanticize maybe what independently wealthy means. Like, oh, I'm just going to turnkey, and then tomorrow I work 3 days a week and go on month-long vacations,
Yeah.
and people just do the work for me. Or, I think that, yeah, maybe that happens sometimes, but it's probably a lot of nose to the grindstone.
100%. Yeah. If you ever watch that show, what's the show with the Shark Tank? Mark Cuban has said a number of times, everybody sees that overnight success after 20 years of work.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
And I think a lot of times when you think about independently wealthy, there's two sides to that equation. The first one is, how do I generate enough income that I can be there? But the second one is, how much income do I need to have? And the idea that I want to have my current lifestyle and not have to go to work, that's one thing. But many times when you have that conversation, people are saying, well, if I'm not working, I want to be able to travel, and I don't want to just travel and stay at the Motel 6. I want to stay at
Mm-hmm.
the Four Seasons, or whatever. They have this idea, and it's like if you want to truly become independently wealthy, the idea is we have to define what that means for you, and then how much income does it take for you to actually be in that place. So it's, I don't know, to me, it's kind of funny how those two kind of go hand in hand, but people don't really think a lot about how much income do I need. They only think about how do I generate the income to become.
And that's kind of like a wealth versus income.
It totally is. It totally is. So, to give you an example, you could meet a farmer, and that farmer could own farm ground that's worth $10 million. You think, holy cow, that's a lot of money. But the only way he gets money off of it is if he's in the tractor, turning the wheels and working that farm to get the money out of it, right? So a lot of wealth, not always a lot of income. Same thing holds true for people sometimes when they think about like their 401ks. They stockpile a bunch of money in this 401k. Okay, I'm 40 and I've got a bunch of money here, but I can't access it because I'm going to pay penalties if I take it out before 59 and a half. And so I've got a lot of wealth, but I can't really turn that into an income to make me feel like I'm independently wealthy as I'm younger.
Okay, so maybe we need to backtrack. Independently wealthy, do we mean like you aren't just reporting to a job to get your income? Like, what does that actually?
Well, and I think that's what my thought is around each person's definition, right? Because so for me, if I think about that, I have no desire personally to be at a place where I don't have to go to work. Maybe not that I don't have to, that I don't go to work. I enjoy it. I enjoy being mentally active. I enjoy the work that I do. I think for some, the idea of being independently wealthy means I don't ever go to work again.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I mean. There's very different definitions
Okay.
of what does that mean. In my mind, when people say that, most of the time what they're meaning is that I'm not reliant upon work to provide for my lifestyle. Providing for your lifestyle has to come through income generation, not necessarily through wealth generation. They sound like they're similar,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not all the time. Katie, we were just talking about you and Alex wanting to build a new house.
Mm-hmm.
If you went out and took, let's say you were able to amass all your money and you went out and bought a $4 million house, that's a lot of wealth. How much income is that house going to generate for you? Zero, right? So Are you wealthy? Yes. Do you have a lot of assets? Yes. But you're not independently wealthy because Alex still has to get up, go to work to pay the
Okay.
mortgage or to pay the electric bill, those kinds of things. And so income versus wealth are two very
I
different
feel like
things.
when I think of independently wealthy, I feel like I associate like real estate or like venture cap, kind of being like an angel investor in a company, like something that's more hands off. Like maybe you
Absolutely.
own an apartment building
Yeah, yeah.
that generates some income, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so, and that's where you start making those distinctions. So, if my goal was to say, I'm at a place where I never have to go to work again, then I'd better look for some investments that I can make that are going to generate an income. Because if you think about work, work is all about having the income that you can spend to do the things that you want to do. Um, and so, if I want to replace that, then I'd better have other things that I can replace that income with.
So maybe it's kind of if you're in your late 30s, 40s, maybe you're working towards becoming independently wealthy. So maybe you're still reporting to a job to build that income. And while you're kind of behind the scenes
Well, and
figuring out how to become independently.
yeah, for sure. Well, and so let's talk real terms about some of the decisions and choices you can make that might lead you down that path more. Uh, so we talked about buying the house or building the house. Let's say that you've got the house, you're happy, living the lifestyle you want, but you've always wanted a pool in the backyard. Well, a pool in the backyard is going to cost me 100 grand. If you choose to write the check there, you're building your wealth. Potentially, you've increased the value of your home
Mm-hmm.
and those types of things. But if instead you said, let's take that $100,000 and buy a rental home. Now, yes, you're building your wealth, but you're also now building an income stream
Mm-hmm.
that's coming in off of that rental home, which now can help offset the other expenses you have, which means you don't have to work as hard if I get enough of those going
So
on.
what you're saying is if I would like a pool in the backyard, I could pitch it to Alex by saying, we're writing a check for a pool, but then that means my time is spent at the pool, not at Target, not at, so
100%.
then
So,
we can,
so that's a different kind of income generation.
okay.
We call that income savings.
Okay.
Yes,
So not the same.
that's right.
Okay.
Pretty close. Yeah, but no, you're right. And so, but that's how when we think about people or hear people talk about this independently wealthy, a lot of times it goes back to some of the rules we talk about in how do you break out of the fishbowl or how do you live that two comma life. One of those rules is you have to make consistent small decisions that are going to lead to compound results. And one of those consistent decisions is how do I make sure that I'm not overspending over here if it doesn't support my goal over there. And so if I truly want to get to independently wealthy, I may need to scale back on some of the things that I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing today
Today.
to invest in the things that are going to generate an income for me in the future. And that's hard, right?
That is
It's
hard.
hard. And the other thing that's crazy about that is it's kind of this pendulum. So in the beginning, I want freedom. I want freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship. I want freedom. And my thought is that if I can have a way to have this wealth that I've built generate this income, I'm going to have that freedom. But in order for me to do it, I have to become less wealthy in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
because I have to invest in the things that are going to do that. And I have to give up my time because to own, let's say, rental property, that doesn't come with an easy button, right? There
Right.
are there are
You're
things
still
you
getting called in the middle of the night that your power went out or.
absolutely will. And even if you said, I'm going to have enough rental property that I have a management company that handles it,
Mm-hmm.
well, you still have to do all the upfront work of creating the contracts and the rental agreements and vetting the management companies. And,
Mm-hmm.
you just go down this list. And then every year doing due diligence on those management company to make sure that that's the right one you still want to stay with. So the easy button isn't there. But if we get that clear picture of what does it look like to become independently wealthy and what's my definition of that, there's absolutely steps we can take to start down that path.
Um, okay, so you were kind of starting to say what are some practical steps you can do, and then
Mhm.
I think I got you off
Well,
track
I think that always
as
happens, right?
always.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think the practical step is that if as I would sit down with somebody and help them through this process, it would be first get crystal clear on what that means to you. And when I say crystal clear, I mean to the point of where you say the ultimate goal is for our passive income to generate to be $10,000 a month, or something along those lines, where you can say my picture is I'm working 2 days a week doing what I love. We have passive income that is generating this much, and it's going to provide us X lifestyle. Once we get there, now you can start painting the path to say, well, how are we going to get passive income? A couple episodes ago, we had Jason Markowitz on the show, and he's in the franchising business, fitness business right now, but franchising in general. You can say, is buying a franchise and owning a business a way that I'm going to start to get independently wealthy? We talked about real estate. Do I want to get into rental real estate? And in that rental real estate, am I a apartment building kind of person, or am I a home person, or am I a commercial person? What kind of real estate do I want to get into? And do I have the expertise to do that? Do I need to gain expertise? How would I gain that expertise?
I want to get into the real estate business that gets me a show on HGTV.
That would be so fun. Yeah. But
where do I get that?
But then we also have people. You mentioned that. You also have people then that look and say, one form of passive income could be being an influencer,
Mm-hmm.
and receiving revenue or ad revenue for being that influencer. Um, there's a path there. I don't know that that's a path I know anything about, but there is a path there for people, and I don't know that that's passive, because like you have to constantly be generating
Yeah,
content, but it is
but in the
ancillary
sense
income.
of, it could be independently
Exactly. Yep.
wealthy for
That could be
you.
your definition,
Yeah, that
right?
could be your definition, especially like stay-at-home mom. Maybe you aren't working somewhere else, and so that is your.
I thought that was the definition of independently wealthy.
Yeah, that is true.
Right? Is that
Actually,
not,
I mean, that kind of is the ultimate.
yeah, that could be depending on
Or
your
that's the
definition.
most dependently
Yeah,
wealthy.
yeah, exactly. No, precisely. Yeah, it's funny. Sarah and I were just talking about that. Because she's been a stay-at-home mom for 25 years, and fortunately for us, it works really well. But I could see very easily being on the mom side of that, and 25 years later, feeling like, oh my goodness, what would I do if? Right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling trapped here a little bit. Um, which is really, it's one of those things that, so take a roundabout way like we usually do to get back to the point, but it's one of those things that when you talk about how do I become independently wealthy, it has to be a joint conversation between spouses. Because when you think about that, we had a client in earlier this week who said, hey, I really want to get into real estate. The husband was saying that, and the wife said, yeah, but that's more risk than I want to take. I never want to be poor again.
Mm.
And so it's like, how do you, because it's not a risk-free transaction.
Yep.
And so it's balancing those things between both spouses as well.
I think that's really tricky. In a past life, when I owned a bakery, I was more on board than Alex was, and that proved to be really challenging
Yep.
down the road. And I was talking to somebody recently, and they were kind of deciding, husband and wife was deciding, what should we do? Should we go through with this or not? And they were kind of on the same page, but ultimately we're not. And I said, that's maybe my biggest piece of advice is, if you're not, it would be a no for me.
Yeah.
After going through that, it has to be kind of
Yeah. No, 100%.
same page.
Well, and the one of the things we say around the office quite a bit is you have to embrace the suck, and you have to choose what suck are you going to
Right.
embrace, right? And
Choose your hard.
it is
Yeah.
absolutely. And so when you think about that, many times people, when they think about being independently wealthy, they fall in love with the dream.
Mm-hmm.
They don't fall in love with the suck.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that, when in a previous life for me, when I was in the gym 5 days a week, I was, I, there was a time when I loved that suck.
Yeah.
But it started because I fell in love with this dream around what could I do, or where could I be. But then if I stopped loving the suck or the hard of going into the gym every single day and doing those things, all of a sudden the dream gets washed away pretty
Forgotten.
easy.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think about that a lot. I think that's kind of the difference between good and great, or independently mediocrely wealthy versus independently truly wealthy,
Yep.
is like the head down part. Like, this sucks and I'm still going to do it and get through it. I think about that even in my own life. Like, okay, yeah, the easier route is to stop and say, okay, this is hard. I'm not going to do it anymore. Or you could say, no, I'm going to embrace the suck, get through it, and hopefully get out on the other end.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. There was and I'm going to butcher it. It's not my memory bank well enough. A gentleman in the 40s that wrote a speech to life insurance salesmen. It was called The Common Denominator of Success. If you Google it, it's a brief speech. It's outstanding. I would have every young person read it. But at the end of the day, the common denominator of success is the successful person is willing to do the things the unsuccessful person is not.
Mm-hmm.
And so it talks about uh, when you're in business, you've got somebody to return that phone call. You want to get home to dinner, but no, you stop and you make that one additional phone call because that's important at the time. And it's the same thing with all parts of life. The person that is on the cover of the magazine because they've got the 6-pack abs, when they say you don't have to do anything different, just call this number and we'll get you there.
Right. Yeah.
That ain't the case,
It's not
right?
right.
They do it because they do the things that the people that don't have the 6-packs abs are unwilling to do. And you can do that throughout all of life. And when you apply that to this independently wealthy piece, then it really becomes, if you want that path, we can paint the picture, we can get you there, but it does not come with a magic wand. It comes with diligent day in and day out steps that are going to get you there.
And I think also part of the painting the, like, being crystal clear on what you want, I think that also kind of sheds light on other aspects. Like, okay, what I really want is XYZ, but to get there, that means I'm not home for dinner.
Yep.
That means I'm not there for T-ball on Saturday mornings. Is that
Is
is
that the
that
trade-off I
still what I
want?
want?
Exactly.
Because I think you have to be honest and like, you have to like really think about, how am I going to get there? And if it involves these things, am I really head down through that?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that a lot of times, so that one of the steps in goal setting. So I'm big on goal setting, big on, I journal a lot and try to just picture what is the life we're trying to create. And one of the steps that many times people don't do, so they'll sit down, they'll create the dream, they'll say, I want to lose 20 pounds in a year. And I'm going to do that by planning my meals and walking in the morning before I go to work. But then they don't take the next step of, what are the obstacles I'm going to run into?
Right.
And when I run into that obstacle, how am
What
I
am I going
going
to
to
do?
combat it? And so as you apply it here, I may want that path. And I say, I'm going to buy rental homes, and that's how I'm going to get my independently wealthy. But then I'm like, okay, well, one of those obstacles might be the furnace goes out and I need to repair the furnace. How am I going to have money to pay for the furnace, both at my house and at the new house? And, just all of those kinds of things. Or to your point, this might mean that I can't go to Dylan's soccer game. Is that really what I want? And is that an obstacle I'm comfortable with?
It's so hard because that thinking of those obstacles could put you in analysis paralysis.
Oh, for sure.
And you start going down the path of, oh, what if, what if, what if? Okay, I'm not doing anything. So I don't know. It's
Katie,
all.
you are singing from my hymn book. So what we do at the Regan house is, Sarah and I are two very different people. Uh, I'm what Kathy Colby, she does she calls your cognitive profile, and it's who you are naturally and where you naturally live. It's not like, are you smart, are you dumb, it's
This is
just,
a Colby
it's
test.
the Colby,
Okay.
correct. Yep. And that Colby test will tell you, just here's where you naturally live. And they have anything from a fact finder to follow through, quick start, and implementer. It's 4 categories. I am like off the charts as a quick start. Sarah would be off the charts as a fact find. And so when you think about that, the way that it's not that I don't do research. Quick start means you just get going. You're running. It's not that I don't do the research. My research happens as I'm
Act.
taking action.
Okay.
For Sarah, her research happens. She has to get all of these things right before she takes the action.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think depending on the type of person you are, depends on how do you go down that path. And so to your point, if you're that fact finder, it's going to be really hard for you to make a decision and take the leap,
Yeah.
which sometimes gets frustrating for the other spouse who
Mm-hmm.
might be the quick start that's
Like,
sitting
let's
there
go.
saying,
We've
what
already
do we,
made this
yeah,
choice. Yeah.
exactly. Like, why are we not doing this and learning along the way?
And to a quick start, they've already made the choice, and the fact finder's like, wait, we haven't even
Well,
began to make this choice. Yeah.
so have you been listening in? Because like for 25 years, so 26, Sarah and I celebrated 26 in June. For 26 years, I will be like doing something like some like plan saying, hey, I'm leaving on a trip in next week. So what do you mean? Well, I told you we're leaving. She said, no, you mentioned to me one time
One
that you
time.
might go on this trip to this
And in your
conference.
head, you're
Yeah,
off.
but I'm done. She was like, but we never really talked about that. She was like,
Oh.
oh, yeah. Then she's like, well, what airline? What? I'm like, I don't know. Those are the details that like we're heading. Like, let's go. So I don't know how that all the way comes back
I think
to
that it comes back to that, because sometimes I think, okay, does that mean that I'm just not on the path to become independently wealthy? Am I just going, does that just mean that's not who I am? I'm stuck in the what ifs and I just won't be that person. Or do I have to like plow through and
yeah. So I really
decide?
I think it depends on what is more important. Uh, there are some people that should never buy a stock. Uh, I have a client right now. He is 53 and is doing very well for himself. Uh, has ever owned anything that has any risk to it because it
He
scares
just
him.
doesn't want to.
In
Yeah.
his business, he takes lots of risk, but all of his investments, you're talking CDs and money markets,
Mm-hmm.
and so for him, he's identified it's not worth it to him to maybe make more money.
Yep.
It's more worth it to him to have this security.
Sure.
And I think that's the part where the romanticized vision of independently wealthy
Mm-hmm.
can kind of you buy the dream, not realizing what that means. And there are people, we interview them in the business every day, where we could offer them this huge potential to make a lot of money that is incentive based, or you can make less, but it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And they're like, less guaranteed works for me. Give me that
Yeah.
salary every day.
Yeah.
And there are other people that say, no way, I want to,
Yeah.
and so you got to know thyself, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the hard part for me.
It's,
Know thyself.
yeah. Well, maybe you just have to ask Alex. He knows you pretty well.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. And so from our perspective, if you want to head down that path of, quote unquote, independently wealthy, I think the key is first identify what it means. Secondly, know that it's not what you're seeing on socials. It's not today I woke up and decided I'm going to, buy a
Cash my
Bentley.
check.
And yeah, exactly. It takes hard work and you can get there. It just takes the planning to say, how do I do this? And breaking it back to, this is my definition. Here's the steps I want to take to get there. Here are the obstacles that I'm going to run into along the way. And then making sure, like you said, making sure that the whole clan, your whole family's on board with it. Because if they're not, it makes it really hard and unenjoyable.
Yeah, for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And then back to, how do I specifically do that? You look for things where it generates an income, not necessarily just things that generate wealth. And so the difference there being, I can build a lot of asset value, but it kicks off nothing that I can spend.
Nothing you can live on.
Yeah.
Currently.
Gold bars, right?
Yeah.
You go out and buy a bunch of gold. You hear everybody talk about buy gold, buy gold. That's fine. It may or may not make you wealthy, depending on what the price of gold does. Gives you zero income.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, let me maybe get into a rental real estate, a franchise, some sort of a business. And then that income can help me to
something with an income stream.
Yep. Can help me to become more independently wealthy.
So you just got back from vacay.
We did. Montana, baby.
Montana. Yeah. That's so awesome. But it's been on your list for a while.
Glacier has been. Yeah, we did. So we did Glacier for a couple of days or 5 days. And then we went down and did northern part of Yellowstone for 4 or 5 days, which was fun. Yellowstone we've done before. Glacier, all the kids said, is their best national park that we've been to so far.
Awesome.
And we've been to quite a few, and they loved Glacier. Part of what they loved, if anybody's ever thinking about going to Glacier, this time period, this like middle of June time period was outstanding. It's warm enough that you can go hike and do all that stuff, but they haven't usually opened going to the Sun Road, which is a road that goes from West Glacier to East Glacier or vice versa, but it goes all the way up the mountain. And so until they clear it with snow and open it up to traffic, you can ride a bike up it.
Oh, okay.
And so now for me, riding
a bike up a mountain
not
looks
a good
more
idea.
like going down.
Yeah, exactly. You got to test the brakes on the way down, right? Yeah. But what we did is right in the national park, you can rent e-bikes, and the e-bike made it so much easier, so much better, and highlighted the trip. So if anybody's thinking about heading out west doing the glacier trip, would highly recommend e-biking up, going to the mountain.
I mean, I'll probably recommend an e-bike just daily.
Oh, that's what the guy at the e-bike rental place told me. He was like, just so you know, you thought
never going back.
He was like, you thought this tour was expensive. This is the cheapest part of your e-bike experience, because once you get them, the whole family wants to get them.
Yeah,
so
that totally, I totally buy that.
Yeah. So, but great
Awesome.
Experience.
Good. I'm glad.
And what are the Umlands up to this summer?
Oh, nothing much. Just
outside every day.
Yeah, little blow up pool every day.
Oh, that's fun.
T-ball in the front yard. Dill really likes to take his shirt off at the moment, so we're shirts off. We're shirts off summer.
Sun's out, guns out, baby.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. For more resources, head to our website pv-wp.com. Be well.